Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. My guest today is Adam Rosen, a world-traveling entrepreneur who sold his first tech startup in 2019. He now leads an AI-driven email marketing agency, helping companies get sales through cold email and newsletters. He has exited multiple businesses, has led several multi-million-dollar real estate developments, and loves the freedom of building successful ventures while traveling the most inspiring places in the world. Welcome, Adam, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Thank you for having me, Claudia. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. Adam, from one traveler to another, what are some of your favorite places in the world?
Well, I have to give love, and I'm based in the U.S., to Hawaii. I spend about 3, maybe 4 months every year in Hawaii. So that will always be top of my list. And outside the US, probably my favorite place to visit is Italy. I've spent a lot of time throughout Italy. I spent the summer in Positano and the Amalfi Coast, which was really special. But then there've been to other great places in Italy, whether it's Lake Como or Florence or Assisi was a really beautiful place. Sicily was amazing. So I've even been to northern Italy in the Dolomite Mountains, which was also stunning and felt very different than anywhere else I've been. So Italy's definitely always tugs at my heartstrings.
Such a beautiful place. Can you take us back to the moment you knew that the typical 9-to-5 playbook just wasn't for you? What flipped that switch?
Probably my whole life. I mean, when I was a little kid, I loved playing sports, and my goal was always to be a professional athlete. And then when I realized that probably wasn't going to happen, it was, how do I live a different type of exceptional life? And I didn't really know much about entrepreneurship, but my junior year, I met a professor who ended up changing my life, who introduced me to the world of entrepreneurship. I ended up founding an entrepreneur program at my university my senior year. That led to me working for the school, getting a 1-year MBA while continuing to build that entrepreneur program. And then once I was doing that, there was no way I could take a 9-to-5 job. So I started my first company 3 weeks before graduating. And now I'm going on a decade plus strong of just going from one business to the other, not in a quick amount of time. It's not like I just go 6 months and then 6 months to different businesses, but I've had a few different businesses over the past decade plus. And it'd be very tough to imagine living a life where I'm working a traditional 9-to-5 job.
That sounds super interesting. What was your first business all about?
My first business, it was very, it was adorable looking back on it, like the whole thing was, how do we help millennials succeed? Like we always saw that some of the best students within a university, the most engaged and active, were students within these student organizations. And we saw they had these specific problems. So the first business ended up being kind of like a research and development business, was speaking at different college campuses throughout the Boston area, which is where I was living at the time. So that was the first year of having that business. And a year later, we ended up meeting an investor. We had an idea to build this into more of a tech play, so build the technology behind it. And then we raised some capital and started, was basically my first business, but in a different sense, which we had for about 4 years before I sold that company back in 2019, which was basically a platform of 100,000 student organizations at college campuses, connecting them to brands like Amazon or Disney or Bank of America or Apple for jobs and internships.
Sounds like a combination of social and, tech, social and tech, if you want. And now you're doing cold email, which I would say has become pretty unpopular because many see it as spammy, but you chose to build a business on it. So why did you choose to focus on this medium?
Yeah, I don't know if there was ever a time where cold email was the sexy or the fun or the cool thing to do. But it really was so much out of need. Like what I've learned in my entrepreneur journey, whether it's the first year of my R&D project leading up to my first tech business or to starting this company, email outreach company, everything, just when you follow the breadcrumbs, the answers tend to unveil themselves. So like everyone's always trying to think of like, what's that $1 million or $1 billion idea that I can think of? And the reality is it's never an idea. It's around having an idea, taking action, failing a bunch, then learning through the breadcrumbs where you should actually go. So for this business, there was really one thing we did exceptionally well as a business during my first tech startup, which was around getting some of the biggest brands in the world as big customers of my company. And we got just about all of them just from cold emailing them.
Wow.
So when I sold that company, I started through a lot of work advising different startups. And one of those startups I was advising just said to me, hey, man, I'm struggling to get meetings on the books. Can you help my head of sales? So I talked to him. I ended up calling on my co-founder of my first startup. I said, hey, I think we could do some cold email outreach for these guys and get them some customers. And that was about 4 years ago now. And we're working with over 150 customers from small startups up to big Fortune 500s to get their calendar loaded up with sales appointments.
Nice. So what do you think is the psychological or maybe even philosophical key to making cold outreach work and feel human?
Well, like with anything, you just have to care. Like if you put a little bit of care into your work, it shows. I don't care what your job is. I don't care if it's tailoring an email. I don't care if it's putting together a billboard in Times Square. I don't care if it's painting a house. Like if you just put in a little bit of extra care, if you're conscientious, you're going to do a better job. So in the email world, everybody always asks me, what's the silver bullet? Like, what's the one thing I can do that's going to get me every meeting with everyone I want to speak with? And the harsh reality is it's not one thing. The email world has gotten so complicated, like so many industries, where you have to do a bunch of things well to give yourself a 2 to 5% lift. So a lot of it has to do with your infrastructure, your emails and your domains you're sending from. A lot of it has to do with your copy and generating copy that is personalized and feels personalized. A lot of it is around lists, creating high quality lists that aren't going to bounce. A lot of it is having good systems in place, but it's doing a bunch of things well in order to get your results. But if you can do it well, I'm obviously incredibly biased, but there's no better source, especially for someone early stage, to get meetings than cold email. You don't have to post on Instagram all day, every day to get 3 likes, 2 of which are from your parents. You don't have to like throw a bunch of money into Google AdWords or into SEO. You don't have to do a bunch of TikTok ads. Like cold email is the most direct way to get in front of your buyer and getting the most raw, real, unfiltered thoughts. Do they like what you're offering or not?
Well, to be honest, I'm not a fan of cold emails. I get a lot of them, a lot of very uninspired guest pitches, for instance. And it's just so cookie cutter, and it's just you can tell it's just copy and paste. And it's at some point you feel like I'm not even going to bother answering any of those. So what would you say, like if you were someone trying to pitch a guest to a podcast host, what should they do?
Well, you have to start with what's the value, because to your point, Claudia, it's a good one. My inbox is full of just horrible emails. Yeah. I see you are the founder of email outreach company. Would you want this blanket thing? It's like you put no care into it, going back to what I just shared. You're just throwing stuff against the wall and hoping something sticks, and you're being lazy. You're not respecting my time. You're being very lazy. So why am I going to give you more of my time? So it's all around the value. Everybody, whether it's you or I, Claudia, or anybody listening to this, we all have problems we want solved. We all do. I wish the 100 problems I'm facing right now, somebody can email me and say, hey, I have a solution to this problem. I would say, hallelujah. Do I trust that you can do this? If so, let's talk. We all want solutions to our problems. We don't want to have to search for days and days and days to find them. But how do we articulate that I have a value that is a solution to a potential problem you may be facing? So if you could do that, we are all looking for solutions to problems, but how do you articulate it to the right person at the right time? That's the challenge.
Yeah, I totally agree. And people should be polite, at least in my opinion. I do also get a lot of emails like saying, something like, maybe YouTube is not working for you and your stats are bad and this is how we fix it. And I always feel like, If you're coming at me like this, I don't feel like I want to talk to you at all.
Yeah, people have like watched videos hearing that this thing worked well in the past, and they'll try to do it as a cold email and they try to replicate it. And look, I'm all for people making mistakes. Like anyone who's listening to this, if you want to get into cold email, the best way to start is just by starting. If you have a horrible email, the market's going to tell you this is a horrible email, and then you have to switch it up. But you just got to get started. So I try not to bash people that are doing bad emailing, because people do bad in every industry. There's horrible Facebook ads and TikTok ads and YouTube ads, but there's a way to do it that's going to get you results. And there's a way to do it where you're going to sit here and say, look, cold email doesn't work, or cold calling doesn't work, or cold LinkedIn messaging doesn't work. None of that stuff works if you don't do it properly and effectively. The problem is it's harder than ever to do it right now. But if you can, there's not just like meetings on the other end of it, but tangible business that's on the other end of it if you can do it right.
Yeah, I agree. So what would you say is the weirdest or maybe most unorthodox cold email that you have ever sent or received that actually converted?
I'll give you kind of a weird one that got some stuff, but it's a story actually of what I was even just sharing. So my first tech startup, as I mentioned, it was a two-sided marketplace. One side of the marketplace was student organizations at colleges and universities in the US. The other side was our companies, Bank of America, Amazon, Apple, Goldman, Disney, etc. So what I was responsible for was cold emailing student organizations to see if they wanted to sign up for the platform. So these were like engineering clubs, business clubs, fraternities, etc. So there was a Friday where I was getting ready to send an email like, hey, we're about to launch in a week. Does your school and your clubs want to sign up on our platform? And it worked really well. But I took a different creative approach that backfired. The creative approach was like, hey, let me try to get a little edgy and say, sign the F asterisk, asterisk, asterisk up. And then in the body of the email, basically say, hey, I'm just joking. Like, here's what we do. Would you want to sign up? Now, that probably wasn't a funny email or a good email or a good joke to do, period. But it's a really bad email to do when you're sending it to BYU, Brigham Young University, which is a Mormon university. So anyway, I send the email. I was driving from Boston to New York to see my mother. It was a holiday weekend. So I'm all excited and I'm driving back home. I pull over to get gas and I look at my email inbox, and never in my life have I seen this many bad emails, especially from students, because students, we were like giving them money. We were getting them jobs. They loved us. It was the first time I've ever got so many emails where people said, you're the worst person ever. So long story short, it was a great learning. I apologized to that same group of people the next day. We ended up getting good results from it, but it was a really good lesson of know your audience. Whoever your audience is, communicate to them in a way that's number one, authentic to you, but number two is going to actually resonate with them. So you don't want to offend people via email, which is clearly what I did when I took that, creative shot probably back in 2016.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's really nice that you also share some of the things that maybe backfired so that people can learn from your mistakes.
That's the goal.
Now, if someone gave you, say, $100 and a laptop and the challenge to generate your first 10 customers in a week from scratch in a new industry, walk me through your game plan.
$100 is tight.
I know.
So
it's a challenge.
The challenge with email in that case is there would be such a small universe to go after because it would be more expensive than $100 to be able to run a campaign in a week is a very tight stretch. What I would do if it was 100, that's what I had to do. I had to get 10 customers. I would be knock, and going door to door. I'd be going to as many businesses as I could. On the way to those businesses, I'd be cold calling and I'd be trying to set up as many meetings as I possibly could. And I'd be focused on how do I get that first customer, get referrals from that first customer. And then I'd also be leveraging that first customer to use them as social proof to get the second and the third and the fourth. But if you only had a week or 10 days, whatever the exact time period was you said, the best way to do that is I'd be knocking on as many doors as I could and talking to as many potential customers as I could and being relentless, offering great deals.
Playing the numbers game.
Yeah.
So in your new business, you combine cold email with AI. How is that changing the way we sell? And what are people still getting totally wrong about using AI for sales?
Well, the great thing about AI is it can make you lazy. The bad thing about AI is it can make you lazy. Like AI can take off so much of monotonous work that we used to have to manually do or hire someone to do. But now AI is so powerful where a lot of us think, oh, we could just press a button and AI is going to do it. And the reality is when things are too easy, they can make us lazy. When things are lazy, the output's horrible. So people think, for example, in my world, I could just go into Chat GPT or Claude and say, hey, this is my business. Write me a cold email for this business to this type of person. The output is going to be horrible. And every single person is going to know you used AI. Why? Because it's probably going to say, we're going to supercharge this and that. It's going to sound like a robot. Like it's going to sound like a horrible email. Versus if you can use these tools right, like people tell me cold email is dead. For a lot of people, it is dead if they don't use it right. Like you either need to become an expert, hire an expert, or don't do it. But I think this is the golden age when it comes to cold email, because the output you can create at scale is better. Like you could send that 10,000 emails in a day that look like I just spent an hour researching you, your company, your website, your social triggers, etc. That is better than if I personally just spent an hour researching you and then actually wrote a handwritten note to you. AI can do it way better if you can do it right. So it's just about how to use these tools. If you use them well, you'll get great output. If you don't use them well, the output won't be there.
So you use AI to do the research for you and give you like a list of bullet points? Is that how you do it?
Essentially, in a simple way, there's tools out there called Clay and Octave, which if you're new to the cold email journey, that's like the PhD level. That's not where you start. But when you can get there, the outputs you can get, like I get on calls all the time with people that say either one, you really did your homework, or two, you are really good at AI. And I just tell them, look, I didn't even do any of that. That was my team doing all of it. And that's the power of AI if you can do it well. But again, if you don't do it well, the output's going to be horrible and the end user is going to know, hey, this is AI, this is lazy, this is not good.
Yeah, I totally believe that this is true. Now, most people think that traveling the world while building a business is kind of a fantasy world. So I bet that the Instagram worthy side is only half the truth. What is the brutally honest version of that lifestyle? What does it look like on a regular work day?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, if you're not in control of your schedule, then you're going to be run to the ground very quickly. So what do I mean by that? Like I have the privilege right now of when I'm in Hawaii, most of my customers are East Coast time, but I'm not getting on any calls at 3 a.m. when I'm in Hawaii. It's just not going to happen. My earliest meeting when I'm in Hawaii is maybe going to be 7 or 7:30, but really I don't like to do my meetings until at least 8 a.m. When I'm in Italy and on the other end, I'm not staying up till 3 a.m. taking meetings. Like I have a set schedule where here's my meeting time, here's my focus time, and then here's my time where I'm also going to enjoy where I am. Because I'm not going to like go to Italy to sleep till 2 p.m. to then work until 3 a.m. You might as well just not be there. So that's one thing is you have to be in control of your schedule. And number two, you have to realize like when you're going to these new places and look, some people like to stay in these more like nomadic village types where they're around a group of other nomads. That's not ever how I travel. That's just not my preference. But if that is your preference, it's a great way to meet people, which is great. But the way I've always traveled, and I travel a lot with my co-founder, which is good. You have a built-in friend and business partner, but it can be very lonely. You know, it's not like you have your group of friends wherever you grew up in or wherever you live, where, you know, like on a Friday night, you're going to go to the pub, or on Tuesday night, you're going to go play pickleball or tennis. Like you're kind of alone where you are, and you have to also get comfortable in the uncomfortableness of being in a new country where you may or may not speak the language, you don't have a built-in friend group, and you're trying to learn all this on the fly while also getting good results with your work.
Yeah, that can be really tough, right? Was there a place that you've visited or maybe which place that you've visited has taught you the most about yourself? Because when I travel, I always find that you look at things a different way, because all of a sudden you see people doing things differently, and it gets you thinking about the way that you do things. So which place impressed you or inspired you the most?
Inspired, I would say, and I don't want to keep using some of the places I've mentioned. Well, so, I mean, being in Hawaii, it's so inspiring because of the beauty and the culture. Being in Positano, Italy is so inspiring because you see the class and the charm and what's possible if you can be very successful in life. Like, here's the beauty you could have every day, whether it's the food, the being out on the sea in a beautiful boat, the walk down to the beach, like you see what's possible. But then there's been places that I visited, like a place like Montenegro, which I stayed there for 2 months in a place called Old Town Budva, which is a gorgeous little old village. You're right on the beach. It's stunning. But for me, when I first got there, it was such a culture shock. Like, I'm a New Yorker, and anyone who knows a New Yorker, you know, it's like we're very outgoing. Like, we're not all of us, obviously, but like we're, you know, we have the energy kind of like I'm probably showing here. Montenegro is very different. Like, it's very stoic. There's not much of that, not as much of that like louder charisma. Like, it's a different type of place. And for the first few days, I'm like, oh crap, like I'm going to be here for 2 months. Like, how am I going to fit in? But then the more time I was there, the more I loved it. The more I loved the people, the more I loved the culture, the more friends I got. You know, the cafes I would go to or the dinner spots I would go to, like they were so welcoming and kind and nice, and welcome someone like me who's very different than a lot of the people that were walking around Old Town Budva. So I think it just showed me, and there's been so many different places I've been to, but really everywhere I've been in the world, whether it's Cyprus, Montenegro, Croatia, look, wherever, everyone has been so kind and welcoming, and everybody wants the same things. They want to be treated with respect. They want them to feel love. They want their kids to feel safety. They want to give their kids a better life than they were gifted. So everyone wants the same things. And if you're just kind and nice to people, it's going to be reciprocated 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I totally agree. When you design a new business, do you start with the business goals, or do you start with where you want to wake up in the world and then reverse engineer from there?
That's a good question. Business goals first, because you can always find a home, especially if you're open to being in different places. You could always find a home that can turn it into a lifestyle. But for me, it all starts with business. Like, a lot of people, at least what I've learned, is it's travel first, and then let me find a business that can support that. Travel for me was the opposite of what I ever thought I would do. I mean, my first tech startup, it was 5 years from start to finish, where I was in the office literally 7 days a week. Like, my traveling was like going to Chicago for a work meeting. Like, it was just, I would travel for work. I never thought I would live the travel lifestyle. It very much came into happenstance that this is what happened. But no, for me, it's business first. And can I do my business in this location or that location?
What would you say are maybe 3 systems, routines, or rituals that make that laptop lifestyle sustainable? Not just financially, but also emotionally and logistically.
Well, I'll give a couple of things. Number one, for the past, 4 or 5 years, I've been journaling every night. So that's very helpful. Like, I have a spreadsheet in my computer where basically every single day I talk about what I loved about that day, what I learned, what I can improve upon, some thoughts I have, and then a question I ask myself. So that's a good way of, number one, keeping myself grounded. But number two, you learn so much, to your point, Claudia, while you're traveling and just in our everyday lives. But if we don't write it down, we think we're going to remember it. But in reality, that lesson just goes away and washes away like the tide in the ocean. So for me, that's a huge thing is journaling, because no matter how good the day was, it keeps me grounded. But also, if there was a bad day, hey, tomorrow I could be writing the complete opposite story in my journal the next day. So that's number one, that kind of helps me mentally stay with it. Number two is I try to stay health and fitness no matter where I am. So whether it's running, whether it's going to the gym, or whether it's finding at-home workouts, because when you're in Positano, with finding a gym there is almost impossible. But staying with your health and fitness, because if I'm not eating well, if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm just not going to feel as good. And then number 3 is having a good team in place. Now I'm blessed with having a great, 15 and growing team members that are able to take care of some of the logistics. But really, for anybody traveling, you should at the very least have a VA who you're paying overseas, who you can find on an Upwork that can take care of some day-to-day monotonous tasks so you can never fall behind. Anybody can afford it. There's people you can find online for $3-4 an hour if you need to, who are going to do pretty high quality work as long as you could structure their day pretty well. So I'd say those are the 3 things that come to mind for me.
Thank you so much for sharing. Now, whenever I talk to a serial entrepreneur like yourself, I always wonder, what did selling your first company really feel like? And how long did the satisfaction last before the existential questions kicked in?
For me, and I always try to share this, even talking about what we were mentioning earlier, Claudia, we sold the business, but it was not an acquisition that anyone would dream of. It was not like I was retired at 27, sipping mimosas on the beach, and I'm just going to spend the rest of my life thinking about what yacht I'm going to buy next. That is the opposite of what my acquisition was. We took it as far as we could. Let's try to get as much money back for our investors as we can. Let's make sure the business can live on, which it still is. And then let's think about what's next. But it was not a glamorous exit by any stretch. So the feeling we had when it officially went through was just goodness. It was a business I thought I would do my whole life. When you go through the acquisition process, you realize, okay, this is not what I want to do the rest of my life. So it was really a big exhale. And even as the business was, finalizing itself, my business partner and I were thinking about what we were going to do next. But that really didn't come to light until, several months after the acquisition was finalized, where I even figured out what was the next thing I was even going to do.
So how do you know when it's time to let go of a business or project, even if it's making money?
A couple of things. One is, do you feel like you personally took it as far as you could, which is okay to admit? There's a big difference between getting to $0 in $100,000 or $0 in $1 million or $1 in 5 million, 5 in 10 million and beyond. So one is, did I take it as far as I possibly could? And for the sake of this business, it's best if I hand this off to somebody else, almost like a relay race, to let them take it the next phase. So that would be number 1. Number 2 is look, if you've tried every little thing and the market keeps telling you no, that's probably a sign either you're not the right person to run it, or maybe this isn't the right business. Like for us, we went to our investors and we said, do you want to keep putting in cash? We had one guy who wasn't even an investor, who just was following our journey, who said, guys, I will cut you a check for $25,000 today. I know I'm going to lose it, but I will do it because I love, I love you guys. I trust you guys. I've seen what you do. And we didn't even know him. He was really just a business connection of ours. He was like, you guys have tried so hard. Well, I'll give you money just to keep you running, basically. But he was willing to burn that money on fire. We had another one of our investors say, Adam, and Pranam is my co-founder, you guys have been amazing. I'll keep putting checks in until, I can't, just because you've tried so hard and you're doing everything right. But then our anchor investor is basically like, I'm done putting in money. And then my co-founder and I had to look at each other in the eyes and say, we have money that people are willing to put in, but is it the right thing to do to continue taking money? Or should we figure out an off-ramp? And we made the decision pretty easily. No, it's time to find the off-ramp to this thing.
Sounds like a tough decision.
It was, but I'm so grateful we made that decision.
Yeah. Now, if listeners want a life more like yours, what's the one thing they should focus on doing this week?
There's 3 keys to running a successful business. It's very simple. Making money, so getting new customers, keeping those customers, so retention, and being profitable. So how do I keep as much of the dollar? Because especially if you're going to run a virtual business, a traveling business, you're most likely going to be bootstrapped. And frankly, being bootstrapped is way better than taking capital. For 95% of businesses should not be taking capital. They should try to get capital through their customers through bootstrapping. So with those things in mind, that's what I would be thinking about is, do I need to get better at getting customers? Do I need to get better at keeping our customers? Why do they keep leaving us? Because it's a lot easier to keep a customer than to get a new one. And then 3, if you do have a business, but you're not keeping as much of the business, where are the blocks? Where are the unnecessary expenses that you have? Where are the ways that you're struggling with your scale? So for each person, it might be a little bit different, but that's all I would be thinking about if I were in any of your shoes is, how can I get more customers? How can I keep more of my customers and expand them at a higher clip? And then also, how can I keep more of the dollars we're bringing in from our customers? How can we be more profitable?
Great tips. So last but not least, how can people follow you, get in touch, or learn more about your business?
Our website is eocworks.com. My email is adam@eocworks.com. And then social media, I'm not like too active, but you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram at Adam I. Rosen.
Awesome. Adam, thank you so much for sharing your tips and insights with us today. It's been a lot of fun talking with you.
Thanks for having me, Claudia. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Keep up the great work. Take care and talk soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.